For my 1960s history project, I interviewed my grandma, who was born in 1944.
Was it true that in the 60s a woman couldn't get a credit card without the man's approval or something?
Well, I'm not sure what happened to single women because I was already a married woman, and that was a big issue because even though I paid the bills, the credit cards all had to be in his name.
Yeah.
You know, and when I became a divorced person, which was past the 60s, even then, I was denied credit because I was the woman.
Yeah. What do you think of that?
Oh, what did I think of that?
Yeah.
I wanted to give them all the finger and tell them, you know, to shove it. And to this day, I don't shop at Sears.
Yeah. Well, my mom was telling me about that. Do you want to explain a little bit?
They denied me a credit card. We had a credit card. And I paid all the bills while we were married for whatever we purchased at Sears. There was no problem with the credit. And when we got divorced, I couldn't get a credit card with my name on it. And I told them at the time, you've lost a customer. Goodbye, good luck, have a nice life. You'll never see me again.
Women in the 60s had restraints when it came to finances. A woman could not have her own bank account. She was to have a joint account with her husband, but never separate accounts. Along with that, women could not have their own credit cards. They had to have their husband sign for it and have it be in his name. Men were sought to be the breadwinner of the family, so women were cut out of everything financial. Being drafted in the 60s for the Vietnam War was a very stressful and scary time for men.
People were worried about getting drafted. Started out with college students had a deferment, meaning they weren't going to make college students join the armed forces. And then that changed at some point, so your grandfather, my husband, was a college student, so he didn't get called up. Then they started taking college students, but not married students. So by then we were married, so he didn't get called up
that's lucky.
because we were married. And then they started drafting, but by then we had one child. So he didn't get called up. Yeah, your mother and I saved his life.
Like my grandma was saying, men could avoid the war if they qualified for a deferment. In order to get a deferment, you had to be a student, a father, or a married man. These deferments pushed men to want to go to school, have kids, and get married. Although some of these deferments were only available for a short period of time, the marriage deferment was only available for 2 years. It was created in 1963 because there was a surplus of men, but it was taken away in 1965 when the U.S. entered the Vietnam War, leading to a shortage of men. Race and segregation were definitely a big issue in the 60s. People had different experiences depending on where they lived, especially if they didn't live in the South.
What was the situation with race?
We lived in Hyde Park. Hyde Park is unusual. The neighborhood itself is racially diverse. It's kind of place where people said hello to each other on the street. We had Oriental families, we had black families, we had college students, professors, you name it, they lived in Hyde Park. The rest of the country, terrible. I went to New Orleans on my honeymoon. It was a terrible experience. It was eye-opening. I never want to be in that situation again, ever. All the stuff that you read about, you know, was true, except you didn't know how it was going to make you feel. To look at a drinking fountain and have it say white only on it. Or to have a bathroom say colored only. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. It made me sick. There was an old law on the books in New Orleans that said it was illegal for a white person and a black person to talk to each other on the street. It's something that my brain just doesn't wrap itself around. I didn't grow up with that. I wasn't living in a place that was like that. And all I could think about was, I just want to get home.
White Southerners were not happy with the end of slavery and being equal with blacks, so majority of the states passed Jim Crow laws that suggested separate but equal. Jim Crow laws were established between 1874 and 1975 to separate the white and black races in the American South. It was supposed to be separate but equal, but it was still a way to make blacks inferior to whites. The most important Jim Crow laws required that public places and facilities, like schools, bathrooms, drinking fountains, etc., have separate facilities for whites and blacks. Thankfully, later on, segregation came to an end.